Well, hey again, everybody. Welcome back to our Virtual Campfire Wednesday.
I'm Melanie Carr, Vice President of Xscapers RV Club.
And I'm Travis Carr, the president of Xscapers RV Club, and we're also the founders of Xscapers. So makes sense that we're here, I guess.
Yeah, and we have a really fun show for you guys tonight. We'll introduce our guests in just a few minutes. So if you're new to this and you're wondering what a virtual campfire is, it is a way for us to all get together online and kind of feel like we're sitting around the campfire in person. And the timing of these are great because we can't get together in person right now. So we miss our events, but we hope that you guys will join in on the discussion here and follow along with the conversation because it's going to be really fun tonight.
Yeah, we actually have some cool guests we can go ahead and bring on if we want, and we'll do some introductions. And while that's happening, we look forward to the conversation with everything going on. And hey, guys!
Woohoo!
So we'd love to introduce you. A lot of people probably know who you guys are, but in the bottom left corner is JP Smith, our Xscapers Convergence Director. So we're glad to have you again, JP. Hey. And then we also have a very special guest, Chris and Cherie of Technomadia, here with us too, and we're going to hear more about their story and why they're so important. But
and the RV mobile internet, I'm sure if you're in the Xscapers demographic, you've at least visited their website or joined their group page or asked a question where they gave you some great advice. So thank you guys for all you do.
We're so happy to be here.
And I also got to say my mom is here. She's watching. So hi, Mom.
Hey, JP's mom.
Thank you for making JP.
Yeah, make more.
Make more. We need a backup.
My mom said she was going to join too, but I haven't seen her yet.
I'll keep an eye out for her.
It's a mom competition, I guess.
Yeah, my mom may show up too. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the meat of the discussion today, we did miss two club items before we brought them on.
Oh.
We had the webinar next week for the virtual Wednesdays, which has now kind of shifted from all of our virtual entertainment. Next week, we have a really fun one with Ashish from Winnebago, and he works on the advanced technology side of things. So he's going to kind of go over the future of RVing and share his insight there. So it should be great.
It's a big deal to have him join us, so we're looking forward to it for sure. So.
And then the last item that is very pertains to Xscapers specifically is, unfortunately, JP's already crying, the Bishop Convergence was officially canceled. And we had not opened registration for that, but it was a postponement of the event that was pre-scheduled for April. And we kind of held onto those tickets and waited as long as we could. But unfortunately, we cannot hold the event. Sorry.
But on to better news.
There's a pandemic or something going on.
Something crazy.
But to better news, we're really looking forward to today's conversation of what's the topic again? We're going down memory lane from what?
We're having margaritas, aren't we?
We should have made some margaritas for this.
It's meal today, but margarita would make more sense. But
I tell you, since last week, Travis, a lot of people have asked about your paper plane drink. It looks really good, but it was really a complicated recipe.
Well, it wasn't complicated other than the one ingredient. Everything else you can find pretty easy. It's the Amaro that's a little weird.
That's why he almost didn't do it, because we weren't sure if people were going to be able to find it. But if you go to Total Wine, sometimes Specs, I don't know, not Specs.
Not very often.
Total Wine is like the one place we always find that. So if you do think you're interested in the drink, grab two, because it is hard to
Or you can come to me and I'll sell you for twice the price.
We have the hookup.
But in all seriousness, though, with everything going on, we're really looking forward to this conversation and kind of, walking down this lane and remembering the good times and reliving them. And there's obviously a lot to it. And really, we're always like rushed to talk about, the history and memories. I feel like, it's either during opening ceremony or this or that. We really don't get to ever just chat about it, our own memories. But while we're doing this, I really hope the listeners and those watching this later will chime in with their favorite memories too.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Definitely.
So I don't know where we start. I mean, there's an obvious starting point.
There is an obvious starting point. If we're going to go back to the very beginning, is how Xscapers began, and
it's the margaritas.
The margaritas. That's exactly right. And it all kind of started when we met Chris and Cherie in person. We met them through Curtis Coleman from our village. They had come to our escapade in Goshen, Indiana, right?
Yep, 2014. It was our very first. We became escapees just to attend that. We had always resisted. We'd always heard great things about the club, but we were like, we've been full-time RVers since 2006, and we had never. All the escapees we had met have all been like
great people, but our parents' age
or grandparents' age.
Yes.
And so we had the impression that the Escapees Club was the retired RVers club, not for us working age folks.
And we were never the type of people who really enjoyed going to those big kind of generic RV rallies. We knew all the basics already and stuff, but we were there because we had helped create and launch our village. So we were there to help support Curtis, and he was going to do a presentation on our village.
It was also our friends Forrest and Mary's
yes.
fault. We'd been caravanning with them, and they'd been going, and they'd been telling us to go. So
they're like, you'll love the escapees. They're like you, just older. You'll have so much fun. And we're like, okay, Curtis wants us there. Forrest and Mary's want us there. Let's check it out. And we'll get to meet this Travis and Mel, these new people taking over.
Yeah. Curtis had told us about, Travis, he's tattooed, and he's younger, and he's taking over the club one day. You're going to like him. Okay.
I guess we'll go.
Yeah.
It's it was really serendipitous in that and of how we met, and really, when we first talked and sat down in a meeting, it was like on a totally different topic. We were like, hey, we approached you. I think it was about website. I can't even remember.
We wanted to hire us to redo your website. We're like, I hired that out for myself.
It was funny that we were just totally off base, but it led us to this communication and connecting, and then we had the monumental milestone dinner at a Mexican restaurant over margaritas.
Well, and you had just wrapped up launching our village too, so we're like, hey, let's do another project.
When we were gearing up to launch the Mobile Internet Resource Center, we had just launched our Indiegogo campaign, which was going to fund rewriting the first edition of our book. Our plates were completely full.
And after our village, we were still kind of traumatized from such a big project. We were like, no, we don't want to do a cool project, but it was such a cool
idea. Well, what we originally approached you guys with is we wanted to see about getting your support for us starting a BOF for working aged RVers. And you guys we need more than that.
It needs to be bigger. And by then, it was actually all in that one, by the third or fourth picture of margaritas.
I don't think there's that many.
There was a decent number, and Curtis was there at that dinner. He actually is the one who threw out the name Xscapers right there and then and there, and it just is like, yeah, this is more than just a piece of escapees. This is, and then it just became this kind of brainstorming place that we just started working with you from then on constantly.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and it's something. It was very special to us to have met you guys through that conversation and to move it forward, because it's something that we had always wanted, and we envisioned all these things, and we were traveling a lot more back then, on the road, and we had our son with us who was right over 1 year old, and we're like, how can we get all of these people? We didn't see that many young people on the road, but when we did, it was like, how can we get them into our community, and show them people like us are in escapees too. So
it was really important, because that's really when we personally started RVing, as ourselves. I've been RVing, with my parents my whole life, but when we started RVing as a family, it was kind of, we started and we, got out of the military, came back to escapees, and then started RVing. It was like, we started opening our eyes into our own, experiences that we never really had as a family. And it really opened our eyes in the sense of wow, we kind of have a problem. And looking back at the history of the organization and okay, so looking at the original 100, a lot of them, most of them were working on the road at the time. And so it's how did this, the club kind of seemed to have this evolution, and somewhere along the way, we kind of didn't expand. We kind of moved along.
Right, exactly. And, originally we contemplated so many different ways of which we could introduce Xscapers to the world. Would it be its own company? Would it be run by you? Would it be run by us? Would it be run by this person that we hadn't met yet named JP? And would it be its own thing? And we finally came around with that. This is really part of your story.
And let's keep it part of the escapees, not a separate thing. I think that was one of the most important decisions that we all made.
That this was really just putting a second door into the club, and it was just bringing you guys back around to the roots. And so what we encourage you guys to do is really start telling the story again of escapees and how it came about. And so we started to kind of just trickle that in for a year as we were building this behind it together, and just building that story and making it more prevalent. So by the time you guys took that stage in March, the story was there and ready to be
Yeah.
taken
We were
over
talking
with your voice.
a lot back then. Like, how often were we meeting on those? We were doing video meetings before we were having video meetings as a company with you guys.
I mean, it is, kind of interesting how it all came to be in the sense too of like the model that we have. It's a pretty unique model when you look at, business wise, to have this separate brand, but not a separate membership. There's no separation beyond this brand and this concept of just picking and choosing, or just feeling like you belong and want to associate. That's kind of unique, I feel, and maybe I'm off base there, but I honestly think it's kind of an out of the box concept that we were just like, it kind of makes the most sense in this regard. We didn't want to divide the history or the story, or we wanted it to be a way to grow Xscapers and the legacy and continue Joe and Kay's legacy and the history of all the for us too. So
and we needed a way though to attract the young folks who, like us, had the misperception that it was the retired folks club. But if we introduce way too much new stuff, your existing thriving business would
feel like they're being put to pasture.
And that wasn't right. So we had to find that bridge, a new brand to attract, and with its own set of features and benefits
and culture and everything else.
But yet very clearly that this is part of the story. And
I think you guys nailed it. It's the success of just how all this magic came together is just perfect.
Yeah, it's a lot of help from everybody, and really, Xscapers wouldn't be what it is without everybody on this call and everybody else in the chat and the community. Yeah. And we're gonna get to JP's story too, who obviously is a big part of this.
He is, because I think everything that has followed the creation of Xscapers is a community-built community. It's like we always listen to what the needs and wants were from the community. Every small event we hosted, we learned so much about what our next steps should be. Yeah. And it's like that little meetup we had in McKinney Falls that you guys invited us to, and it's where we met Brandon Krenza, Heath and Alyssa, a bunch of really cool people who, Brandon Krenza are a part of the Xscapers team. It's like it's really, just
that was a very, very influential meeting that came together.
Oh, because also we had Malia was there, Miles was there, and she was big part of the RV community when unfortunately she passed away recently. But that was a huge monumental meeting that we had there in Austin.
And that was actually we had been trying to bring together these little convergences of cool young RVers, and we'd been part of. There was the new RVers, and there was all these other things we hosted or co-hosted and stuff.
We used to host a camp at Burning Man for nomads, and we hosted a couple convergences out at Cedar Key. So we've been experimenting with the idea of a convergence, which was different than a rally. It wasn't just jam-packed seminars and entertainment non-stop. It was something that you could attend while still having your working day and still having that community, and have it be more casual and more weeks to months of being together instead of just 5 days. Yeah,
but there was nobody to kind of run with organizing it, and that's why there needed to be summoned into an existence a JP and an Xscapers umbrella to put all this under. So
I do remember a thing on our village when it first started for the whippersnappers, as we were called. That was short-lived. It was right after the new RVers, I think. But I met Becky Shade, who is still an Xscaper. I met her through the Whippersnapper page on our village. It was the first working age RVer that I had met after being on the road for, I think, a year and a half, almost 2 years at that point.
Right. It was so hard to meet. I mean, for us,
it took us 2 years before we met
somebody else either
of our own age. And, that was back in 2008 when we finally met Ben and Karen.
It was back before the internet, when those whippersnappers were trying to make friends with their telephone devices.
But, JP, what's really crazy about that, I don't know if you know this, but Becky Shade is involved with Xscapers because Chris and Cherie's connection with her is how this all... So you meeting her is probably part of the reason you came to Quartzite, and how this all your story started.
Yeah. I was just going to kind of roll into your story and kind of how we met you to begin with, and how you became the Convergence Director.
Balloon Fiesta first, or was
we did Balloon Fiesta. We said is the first Convergence, and we did that October 2015. So right after we launched in March, And we had, it was like 30. How many were at the balloon? It was like 30 RVs.
Rigs, I think.
We had like 23, 22.
23. And there's a lot of people
who were camped, who were already planned to be there, who were Xscapers, but were already parked somewhere else and stuff.
Hey, did you see who just showed up in the chat?
Curtis
was here. And,
those whippersnappers.
I guess he thought we were the whippersnappers, so he came up with the name. So I guess I was unintentionally doing a Curtis impression there.
Curtis comes up with names for things. That is one of his superpowers. He can name any band. It's if you need a band name, Curtis.
Well, hey, Curtis, we're glad you're here and joined us.
I see a bunch of people are here. Juliet, Sean, your mom joined.
Yay, Mom!
Mary's in the comments. Sky, hi everyone.
Yeah. So the first Convergence and Balloon Fiesta was. I think it blew us all away of how well that went.
Oh, just that everybody was so energized to have a critical mass of other people that could share their same story. It's like, you're working here and you're living this life on the road and you're making these intentional choices, and just having that vibe of we connect was awesome, overwhelming, amazing.
And I'll never forget the way that everybody chipped in to do something. We had some of the educational seminars, but every day somebody was saying, hey, I know how to do this. Maybe you want to learn about it, and just throwing an impromptu thing.
That's what I was going to say is really the true throwbacks to the roots too, was that event. And, we honestly, at the time, we didn't really have me and Mel. We were pretty overwhelmed with the concept, like, oh my God, we're going to go host this event at Balloon Fiesta, which was a nightmare of organizing
for our first event,
and dealing with the, the facility themselves. And we're like, oh man, we'll see what happens. But I mean, just like the roots of Xscapers and kind of this principle of gathering people together, everybody took care of each other, and the community made it. The community is what made the event really the event. It wasn't that we threw on a bunch of activities it had nothing to do with that. Everybody just chipped in, and it was really cool. Yeah. Yep. For sure, obviously a favorite memory.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic event, and just to see that organically come about, and some people who were there are still core parts of Xscapers. Oh, Brandon Carenza now.
Yes. They got hooked there, and
and then so the next one that we aimed for was tacking on to the Quartzite Happy Hour. That was a tradition with the Xscapers Club, and this was our first and we did some with the Boomers at Albuquerque. We made sure that we did some co-events with them to kind of make sure that the two organizations had some fit together. And then at the happy hour was the big thing of having the Xscapers and the escapees have two events back to back, so that there was crossover and that saw that intermingling of the generations together.
Yep. Yeah, it was really, and it was small. It was just a 2-day thing. We didn't want to make it a big thing or overwhelm the happy hour official terms. And that's a really cool story. And we all showed up. We're there for the happy hour. Kind of crashed the party for the the gang that's there every year. We had a bunch of new people show up because of Xscapers, and it was really cool to have that new excitement kind of going on in the crowd. And following that after that 2-day thing, or during, is when we met JP.
Right.
Yes.
JP, how did that happen? How did that roll down in your eyes? I'm curious.
I remember I was actually in New Mexico, and I was volunteering for a Habitat for Humanity a house build, and I left it 2 days early because this group that I'd heard about, I'd been following them. They'd just been founded. The Xscapers were having a get together, and I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And I bombed 2 days across from New Mexico to make it to Quartzite, and got there and was just first shocked that there was other young RVers out there. And then I think the second shock was that these RVers were up past 8 o'clock at night. Which really
they're still up at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we had a great time, and props to Travis and Mel for putting that together. It was so much fun, and we had a small group. Maybe, what do you think, 25?
Yeah.
I think it was total about 40 or 50 people there that when we did the meetups and the seminar things.
But and this was all by the side of the freeway. This is kind of like the worst kind of Quartzite boondocking, and
we had already told Travis beforehand. It's like, okay, our intention is while we're there, we're going to try to get energy to have a true convergence come out of this afterwards. Our intention is we're going to take as many people who will stick around
and take them out in the desert and show them how to do it right.
And we met JP and Chris and JP.
Yeah, so
it was Chris, JP, and Brian. Brian.
Scott.
Yeah,
Brian Scott. And we had a great 2 days, but it was by the side of the freeway, and I don't think, we were going to sleep late at night, and we probably wouldn't have gotten any sleep except for the late nights, and the campfires probably helped put us medicinally to sleep.
Right.
But the noise of the highway woke us up early, so Chris and I on the Sunday we both said, "Come on, we got to go find somewhere else further away that we can all move to, because this is too good a thing to shut off after 2 days. But we got to find a spot that we can get a little bit of sleep."
Yes. And so
we'll do another side of quartzite. Take it away.
Yeah, we went kind of zigzagging up, and it's like we need to find some real good virgin territory with some terrain and some cool space to spread out. We don't want to do this everybody camp bumper to bumper. We want to have a little neighborhood. We call it the Xscampment.
Xscampment is what we need.
Yeah, and so we found a little spot. Kind of nobody was up there at all.
In Dome Rock,
up on Dome Rock, up the side of a hillside. But we made sure that bigger RVs could get there. It was scary for some people who never taken their RVs down anything at all like this. But they're like, "Come, here's the GPS coordinates. Let's do this." And we got the bus, and everybody started just moving there, and we built a village. And everybody did their thing in this village.
Yeah.
It was fun, and a lot of the activities were just impromptu, happy hours and potlucks and hanging out.
We had the screen. We did movie nights on the back outside of our bus with the big projector, and we had some fire spinning and dance party there.
And we got to learn how to mine for gold, because that's when I knew JP was going to be his thing, is because he was a tour director beforehand.
And it's in his DNA. And that he came wandering out of the desert and is like, "Hey, I met a gold prospector and I've got a tour set up for us tomorrow." Like, you just do this. This is like, you walk into the desert and he comes back with a tour for the group.
It was, and it was really interesting. And we spent a week out there, and we had organized activities, and we did get a lesson in gold prospecting. And I will never forget watching the first time I'd ever watched a movie outside. It was on the side of your bus, and we watched The Martian.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
we had kind of a discussion about how RVing was similar in ways to being on another planet, and how you have to be self-sufficient and things like this. And something that I've told many Xscapers and new people, a lot of people are afraid to go boondocking for the first time. And Xscapers is a reason for a lot of people to try boondocking, and myself included. I had done a couple of overnights here and there, but the Xscampment and the convergence out at Quartzite was the first extended period of stay that I'd ever done off the grid. And coming out of that, after what were we out there? 2 weeks, I think.
I think it was total 2 weeks.
Yeah, we pushed the limit there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like, how could I ever go back to staying in an RV park on a regular basis? I mean, they have their reasons and their spots, but you didn't lack for anything. And we had our own community out there, and we had so many fun activities. And I know the first convergence was the balloon fiesta, but for me, Xscapers was born at that. That's
where the bash was born. That's where the heart and the magic, I guess,
came out of that. That was the bash before it was the bash. And
yes.
Our idea of the convergent was relax. The bash. We finally went to our first bash this year.
Yes.
After that quartzite event was our last official Xscapers event. We kind of went to the Vermont one, but then we switched to boating, and it took us that long to get back to Xscapers events. And going to the bash this year, it's like the bash is not relaxing. That's
No.
I was going to say
not relaxing.
JP loved what happened there so much that he decided to keep coming back. And before he even had a job, he was helping us plan things for free.
It didn't take long for JP to already start. He had our email and started writing us little messages like, "Hey, so next year, what do you guys think about this? Or do you guys need an extra hand?" And eventually it was like, can I volunteer? And we're like, sure, we'll take as many volunteers as you can. Absolutely. You want to do work for us for free? Absolutely.
He's like, I'm here hanging out with everybody anyway. I might as well.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny. And what's really crazy, I think the crazy part, and I don't know if there's any memories in between, but just kind of, back, Dome Rock number 2, which is where you guys moved to, and it was named, Dome Rock was what it kind of was associated with later on. The next year, you guys took 20 rigs this year. The next year, we're like, plenty. Well, we get there, and we do this thing. It was a 2-week thing. We planned a 2-week event, and it didn't take very long for it to be already over capacity of what we were expecting, just to the sheer numbers of people that were excited and wanted to come out. I think we had 72 rigs, and the space was not designed for 72 rigs. So I don't care how far you want to be, but it got pretty crazy. Real quick.
I remember you and I, Travis, just like sitting back one night having a beer and being like, "Oh my God, can you believe that there's 70 people out here?" Like we had no idea or intention for it to be this big. And that was 70 people. It was nuts. Fast forward to a year or 2 years later, I even remember Chris and Cherie, you guys writing one of your April Fool's posts about how if you extrapolate the number of people at the Xscapers Convergences, that by year 4 or something, we were going to have to take over the entire state of Arizona.
Yeah, it was like that. It was like it's going to be bigger than Burning Man, and because I was having so much FOMO of just. We're out on the East Coast. We're missing out on all the desert magic and the Xscaper magic, and we're seeing all this stuff happening. We're like, I want to be there. And so I did a post of like, look where it's going. Where is it going to be?
Yeah. So definitely quartzite just naturally seemed to have evolved into this bigger event than the rest of our events. So I mean, we held a bunch of other events and kind of in between that period, that 2-year period, between that second quartzite event.
Yeah.
And
well, it felt like Xscapers was just kind of taking off, and we were trying to, as we were traveling, because before JP came on, part-time, full-time, when he transitioned to his job, it was just us hosting the event.
We had a couple of volunteers.
We had a couple
for some,
hosts, and thank God for them, because they really helped us expand our regional areas. But it was kind of like we would plan maybe every other month to do one event, host it on our own. And we never knew what to expect, because we were like, we don't know where people are, and we had Xscapers numbers, but we felt like people were just kind of dipping their toes into the community and seeing where it was. And I'll never forget, like, one of my favorite convergences was Joshua Tree South. And we were like, let's try to take some Xscapers to Coachella. It was our first Coachella too. And we were like, let's do something fun.
Basically, we were just nervous and didn't want to go alone. And we're like, well, we'll just tap into it.
But the original intent of Xscapers was, kind of try festivals, try to do things that this working age community would like. So we're like, okay, let's try a music festival. And I think we were a little naive on the size of Coachella and how big of a music festival it was. So it was a little crazy, but we were like, okay, we've got people registered, they have their Coachella tickets, and then we're going to stop and plan something in Joshua Tree just so we can get to know each other beforehand, because we didn't know any of the people that were going. And then we opened it up to the general member Xscapership.
Yeah, just thinking, a few people come by.
Yeah, well, maybe people in the area will come, and we were on the boondocking, the BLM land out there outside of Joshua Tree. And I think we had how many rigs did we have show up to that one?
Over 30.
Over 30. And then we were there was tons of people already there when we got there. And it was kind of back in the days where we didn't have a super good registration system. It was free events.
It was a spreadsheet on our computer.
Yeah, well, people would email us and tell us we're coming. We're like, if you're coming, email melaniecard@xscapers.com and let us know. And so I'm keeping track on an Excel spreadsheet.
All the events for free and totally just just come, who cares, whatever.
And then 2 days before the event, 10 more people were like, hey, we're in the area, we're going to come by. And I'm like, how are we going to park all these people?
So I remember frantically going, oh no, because if you're not familiar with Joshua Tree South, it's an awesome area, but there are definitely parking areas that are not parking friendly. They're very sandy, or can be very sandy. They're just very small, narrow little pockets. It's not just an open area.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we were expecting 8 RVs, right? And then we show up, and then we're like, well, now I got to plan for 30.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the parking guy, right? It's like, well, I'm going to be the parking guy. I got to figure this out. So I'll never forget the first person who pulled in, and it was the sign. I go, oh,
Dave.
no.
Yeah.
is Dave Collins.
There's the second this happens, it was completely open, like not completely.
No one there yet.
Nobody else was there yet. He pulls in early, and then he comes and backs up right next to our room.
He just drives in, flies in, and then just gets stuck.
Oh yeah,
like stuck, just buried his like all the way. And he gets out. I remember seeing a beer, and he goes, "Well, I guess I'm staying here. Are you Travis?"
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'll never forget Dave. They stopped RVing to a degree, from what I understand, but
well, his wife, they were from Ireland, and his wife was in Ireland, and he was coming to Coachella with us, so we were like, I guess we better get to know each other, and he ended up being a really good friend. We love Dave.
You know what's funny to pile onto that story is that Dave and Mairead, yes, are off the road, but they sold their rig to two other Xscapers, Holly and Aaron. And Holly and Aaron are parked right next to me outside of Yellowstone, where we're socially distanced but safely camping. And we visited Yellowstone today. So Dave and Mairead's RV, the one that got stuck to you, is just 5 meters or 15 feet behind me over here.
Well, hopefully they didn't hear me say that the rig was buried at one point.
It was fine. It was totally fine.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, there's been some awesome. I mean, we could go on and on and on.
I mean, the bash out at Quartzite has really become the heart and soul of Xscapers, and it grew out of just something organic and us meeting organized, but then wanting to extend this sense of community that we had. It was great that first year we had 75 RVs, or the first year we had about 20 RVs, and then I think maybe 15 of us moved on to Dome Rock. And then the next year, I sent Travis and Mel an email saying, hey, I want to help plan a few more things and help you guys organize it. And we ended up with 75. And then I think the next year was at 250. And then the fourth year we had to move out of Quartzite because we had just gotten too big. And we had maybe 320 RVs. And then last year, where the bash has ended up out at Lake Havasu, we had almost 400 RVs. So
we had to cut right off of that.
We would have. That's just because we didn't have the space available, and that seems to be our issue.
Yeah.
I don't know what the problem is. It's just funny, but bash is a kind of a one of a kind. It's a special place in Xscapers for sure, and it was kind of year 2 and 3 was a little funny in the sense that it was like Chris, you were talking about how it was. Really kind of supposed to be this pretty relaxed thing. Well, it got so big that it became like we couldn't control it. There had to be some type of like this mechanism, and people were demanding. They're like, "Well, what are we gonna do all day?" We're like, "I don't know. Figure it out." No, but it definitely morphed into a one of a kind event that we just go all out nowadays. But
yeah, well, I mean, you guys were there. Was it this year? Was it last year?
Yeah. It was the last decade, wasn't it?
It feels like about 17 years ago now, because every month is a year, every week is a month. I don't know. But yeah, January it was a lifetime highlight. It was so magic to see.
And coming back to it and seeing what you guys had built with this little thing that we helped you plant the seed for,
and it was like boom. So amazing.
Literally boom.
Yes, literally boom. And then bandits, and then get out the way as the thing comes through. And oh man, that was just such an incredible week. It was like every day was an incredible highlight.
Yeah. And it's almost getting to be a problem because we keep trying to top ourselves from year to year. And the bash in 2019, I see Yumi and the RV just put a message up. How it was their first long boondocking stint for newbies at the time. And the bash 2019 was the first time in our new home at Lake Havasu. It was so much different and so much crazier. And we didn't have quiet hours that were enforced by BLM regulations. And we had parties that went until late. And then everybody's like, well, what are you going to do next year to top it? And I think 2020, we stepped it up. The Escapees trailer that the Xscapers used. A custom-built 40-foot trailer that has 2 stages, sound system, movie theater basically built in, tables and chairs for 300 people. I mean, we brought that thing out, and it took it up to such another level. We 2 stages going on with presentations, and we had kids activities in one building at night, and we had adult activities in the other, and some really adult activities with the comedy club and the what else, the game show that was a lot of fun, and the dueling pianos. I know that was Travis and Mel's one of their favorite activities. But we took it up to such another level, and then everybody's like, "Well, what are you going to do next year?" And I don't know. I just want to retire now. I don't want to.
Go out on a high.
Well, that's why they just canceled the world. It's like, okay, we can't top Bash 2020,
now we know
so we
why
cancel everything.
There's a pandemic because JP doesn't want to work, Kitty.
It's like, I can't top it. I got to stop at the top.
JP caused all this. He's tired.
Yes, that is. I probably wouldn't put it past JP, but that you talked about the event trailer too, and I think that's one of I don't have the direct memory because I wasn't there, unfortunately, is that trailer project and what it means for Xscapers, I think, in the future too. Unfortunately, we haven't got to use it as much as we want, but I think what it showcased at New Year's Eve, which we kind of glossed over New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. We did that too.
Was such a cool thing for so many reasons. And I think, Xscapers has obviously grown over the years. And I think one of the things that, Mel and I had continued to say to each other is we always want to still have those original quartzite experiences or those original Bloom Fiesta experiences that are small, intimate. Those are still very much important to the club. So I think New Year's Eve, and that give back that it was a free event, and it wasn't this, massive
it wasn't small, but it was just
it wasn't small, but it was a give back.
Travis, no, that did not capture the small element.
But that did have more of the laid back thing.
Yes,
other than the certain big things, it was much more. Everybody's just living in the desert. There's a lot more informal stuff happening. People are finding ways to give their creations, like the open bar that just magically appeared, and barbecues happening, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Exactly.
And we went from back in the day, basically a totally free structure to charging for events, then being more structured, including activities. JP works his butt off to come up with fun and exciting things. So that's all part of that. And so the New Year's Eve is kind of like that special thing, it's like you just show up and have a great time.
Not that our prices are crazy by any means. Anyway,
no.
they're definitely the most, I would say,
not at all.
And JP would agree. He says it all the time, most affordable in probably the industry in regards to what we're doing. So but yeah, I think it was a really cool throwback and just kind of a cool memory project to work on. I now work with JP and Brandon on it a lot, and it was just so cool to kind of see like this idea of like, wow, we have a trailer that we can go anywhere and do the same thing we would do at a facility without having it. So I'm kind of really curious to see where that goes and what we do with it. But
hey, I'm trying to put up a picture of the trailer right now just to show what it is for those people. Here we go. And I just happen to find this one. Let's see.
Don't put up the wrong.
There we go.
Oh, nice.
That was Becky and I.
Yes, it's doing a light spinning.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I'm doing the wand. Yeah,
you're the wand.
Yep.
That's awesome.
But if you haven't seen the trailer, I mean, in the far left corner, you've got 2 stages. One that opens up into the back, what we call the big ass tent, and it's a massive tent. This is New Year's Eve. I think we were just kind of getting it all organized right here. But we have tables and chairs for 300 people inside this tent. The giant stage there, speakers. We got LED lights that are color changing all over the place. It's really a massive to do, that trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that just made me really I cannot wait to get back together with the community. I cannot wait till we can have events again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that trailer is like a rolling party that we can just take wherever we want, and give us 3 or 4 hours to get it set up, and
about 50 people.
And about 50 people, and how long would it take to set up if everybody has to stay 6 feet away from each other? It's like, oh,
our insurance will cover that.
That could be a problem, getting it set up while we try to stay 6 feet apart. But it's a lot of fun, and it gives us so many more options and so many more things that we can do with it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, there's so many just cool memories, and I've been chatting. We haven't talked about it, but there's been a lot of awesome comments and people just chatting back and forth, and as we're doing this live, and it's really cool to see and to see people engaging and seeing our community still there, man. That's really what this is all about.
Oh, Michelle and Chuck are there. We love the status crows.
Oh, wait! Did you say status crows? Oh, yeah. Hold on. There we go.
Yes.
That's a real good example of what we can do from our stage. I think this was actually at the bash because we're on concrete there.
Yep.
So 300 people in there. We got tent heaters to keep it warm. We got colored lights, and we got the greatest traveling band in the world, the Status Crows, Chuck and Michelle, up on stage.
I have to say, one of my favorite memories was at the bash this year. Just that the audience would not let them end their set. It was just so magic between them and everybody's calling out for more. I think they basically collapsed in a pile of love. It was just so much magic and love and energy in that room.
It was the best ever.
100% agree. It's one of those nights that everything aligns and
let's see.
Just make it happen,
And turn off the light here. So we're set for the next bash with our light up changing color masks. So we can do this. The technology will find a way.
Travis is so jealous right now.
No, it's true. I am a light fanatic, but I think Brandon Crenza had you beat. They somehow saw the future and had masks this year. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they're weird, cool design.
Yeah. Why wasn't they were already pre-prepared for this?
I'm telling you, it was Brandon Crenza and JP. They're up to something.
And the news started coming out at Bash about this thing going on over in Wahoo. So
I saw Dan Hemming's comment about the trailer music helped Mateo find us in the desert.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
Oh, that's a great story. For some reason, we lost Chris and Cherie. I'm sure they'll be back. If anybody has good internet from where they're remotely joining us, it'll be Chris and Cherie. But yeah, the funny story, New Year's Eve. Yeah, here they are.
The keyboard or something because there was it's like we didn't lose you, it's just the camera.
Well, I said if anybody has good internet, it's going to be Chris and Cherie, so I'm sure we didn't lose them. But yeah, the funny story that came out of New Year's Eve was we were out in quartzite in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the closest place to plug in for electricity is probably 15 miles away, and we had our trailer, our tent, which is all solar powered, running off Battleborn batteries, and we were out in the middle of nowhere. We had a music going at midnight. We were just partying our butts off as loud as can be, and all of a sudden 5 or 6 people came up to me in the space of just a couple of minutes and said, "Hey, I don't think that guy is with us. He's not an Xscaper. None of us have seen him before." And they were like, "Oh, you need to go talk to him." So me being, I guess, the guy in charge, I went and talked to him, and it was Mateo, who is now a great Xscaper and the epitome of what the club should be. And he said, "Oh, I just heard the noise, and I wandered across the desert and found this party in the middle of nowhere and thought, I have found my people."
This strange guy comes up, he grabbed me by the arm. He's like, "What's going on here?" And I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you about the Xscapers." And he's like, "Do I have to leave? I don't have a wristband." I was like, "No, you will be welcome. I think you belong here. You were called. You need to find JP. That's the guy over there."
He ended up.
And now Mateo's been to, I think he went to the New Year's Eve, the Bash, and Casa Grande, and then of course then we got shut down after our last convergence in Casa Grande for quarantine. But he's been to everything.
He's gonna live in Xscapers history.
Yeah,
that
kind of needs to be in a history, just hang his picture.
If we ever have an Xscapers history book, he's gone.
We should have an Xscapers history webpage for that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mel, is that you dancing with the little fella? Yes,
is.
That was me and Clark.
Clark, who also painted this little guy, which we had to have. So
he's my third son. I've adopted him.
It represents the flaming X from Bash.
Oh, that X was awesome.
Clark. So yeah.
Yeah, I could show a lot more pictures, but we'd be here for a slideshow for hours. But yeah, we had a giant flaming X, and now that lives in the trailer and gets carried around, hopefully to future convergences.
Oh,
Do you put the flame out when it's in storage?
No, you can never. It's like the Olympic flame; it's always lit. There's just a little pilot light going, but the Xscapers flame can never shut.
Man, so I mean, we got about 15 minutes left. And I know we've got a couple of things to talk about and some just closing thoughts. And we'd love to, again, invite any questions while we're all here from the crowd. And again, thank you all for joining and stuff. But I know we probably...
I was going to tell you, or just remind you the story of how I came to work for Xscapers.
Yeah.
You know, I went to the first bash, and Travis and I or what would become the bash, and Travis and I got along really well. And he heard that I was a tour guide, and he said, "Oh, you know, maybe one day you could come work for us and organize some events." And I laughed. Then I volunteered to help at what would become the bash, the second one. And again, Travis says, "Oh, you know, maybe you should come work for us." And I laughed and said, "You know what? You can't afford me." I was working in Europe at the time, and I was making good money. And I decided that I wanted to use my RV that I'd had for 4 or 5 years at that point and travel a little more. So I was going to take a year off. And I've told Travis and Mel this since, but I had sat down and said, hey, and wrote out this really nice email about how I wasn't going to be working next year, and I would love to volunteer to host a few more convergences and organize some events all around the country since I'm taking a year off work. And then I remembered Travis had tried to get me to come work for him a couple of times. And so I just changed a word or two in this email from "I'd love to volunteer to host these events" to "Hey, you still want to hire me?" And email, and Travis and Mel were like, "Yes, we want more events." And it worked. It turned out it's been a marriage of great convenience and what's the word? It's been wonderful. It's been a great club to work for, and I know Travis and Mel have so much on their plate now, being over the entire Escapees organization, and me just doing the convergences full time. It's allowed us to have a lot more of those events and bring in more people and give them more opportunities to meet up. And then also we've had a lot of great hosts, a lot of volunteers that I've worked with to organize different events. You know, Brandon and Corinza, before they started working for Escapees, they volunteered to host some convergences out in Florida. Same with Cheryl and David, who Cheryl's usually on here. I haven't seen them tonight, but you know, they started off by working together to host some events, and now they're organizing events under the Hangouts umbrella for Escapees. And yeah, it's been great, and I've enjoyed every minute working for you guys, and hope it lasts for a long time, and hope we can do a lot more of these convergences in the future.
Never let JP go.
I don't think that's the goal. I just want to say I can attest every bit of that is absolutely true. I can totally, for sure. But I do want to say one correction, and that is it's not just me and Melanie. I mean, Sean, the rest of the team. It's a whole gaggle of really great people who make this all happen.
Gaggle.
But
you never
including your
chance to use
I got to use gaggle. I love it. But you included, JP. I mean, this convergences would not be what they are today without you and what you've done to morph those. So
yeah, you were like a match made in heaven to run that program.
Everybody deserves some heart. We need some hearts, some things, some comments.
How many?
And everybody else.
How many convergences have you hosted?
Yeah,
since you started working for us.
I think it's around 30. I'd have to sit down, but about 30 over the last three and a half years, I think.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy because when you think of most of them are at least a week long, and all the activities and planning that goes into those, it's a lot. Yeah.
We're glad.
You're right. Carrie is running the social media right now, and she's helping with all the comments and stuff. So she's a great person who people don't see up front. And Brandon and Corinza, we've mentioned them several times. They're doing the marketing and the graphics and the brand direction. And Sean, who's on here, and Kathy, your mom, who's helping and sending us down the right path. It's such a team effort, and You know, we wouldn't have had anything if it weren't for you guys having some pictures of margaritas years ago. But the team has all come together to make this thing grow into such a monster. I mean, a great monster. And in fact, just 30 minutes before I jumped on the call tonight, where we're boondocking outside of Yellowstone, there was a young couple that were packing up, and I saw them for the first time outside the rig, and they had a Wii Boost, as most full-time RVers will have. And so they were packing up, and I went over and introduced myself and told them about Xscapers, and they'd been on the road for a year and a half. They're in their mid-30s and had never heard of them, and you know, they're already wondering about the next convergence and wanting to sign up. And hopefully they might even be watching right now, because I was like, oh, you got to log on in an hour and watch the live show.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, and all of our volunteers too, all the people that I know when we're talking about the trailer and all that goes into the tent and how many people it takes to set that up, and you were like, I have too many people asking to help. No, like we gotta get space. Yeah. So it's like everybody just wants to help. Anytime they see anybody that's organizing the event, doing something, you can never get not enough help. Like everybody.
Sometimes we get too much.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's like everybody wants to help, and it's amazing. It's
but no,
like mind blowing.
It's truly pretty special. Pretty special to see Xscapers kind of carry on through Xscapers 2 without really much work in it. It really kind of just came to be, and I think that's testament to just our RVers and who we are too. So.
And Georgianne's in the comments too. Georgianne's on our marketing team.
The whole team is like the Avengers. It's like all these incredible talents and people just coming together to make magic and do good stuff and save the world. So yes.
And Sky, who is not an employee but works at the annual bash like he's getting paid $1 million. That guy never stops. So hi, Sky.
Sky is amazing. Yes, I remember the first time we showed up to Tucson and we went in to check out our presentation booth, and he like kicked us out. Like, oh. And then
it's like we kept finding like, oh, all these Xscapers people are so freaking cool. I'd like,
Guy is the best.
He is amazing.
Speaking of an awesome volunteer too, you have Dan Hemming on here, who has been countless help to several Xscapers just in the community, not at events, just in general. An awesome guy who's done so much for everyone too. Yes. So I know every one of us have memory.
Yes, the PSA award.
Yep. And memories.
His wife, Sarah, makes the awesome Xscapers hats that everyone asked about. They're amazing.
So, JP, I know we were kind of talking about, we kind of led up the annual bash, and people are probably wondering, and the reality is we're going to get asked at some point, so we'll just say it is, regarding annual bash is, we just don't know at this point. It is early January, typically in Arizona, and that's just our concern about, what'll happen there. We're keeping our fingers crossed, but honestly, it's not looking super fantastic that it will happen. However, we do hope. Yeah, go ahead, JP.
Well, if the sky opens up and it's safe to get together, we can plan an annual bash pretty quick. We're lucky that the people at the rodeo grounds that we work with at Lake Havasu, Mark and his team, are awesome, and we've been in communication with them almost weekly throughout this. But, we just don't know, and it would suck to say to everybody, change your travel plans and meet us out there in January. And then in January, the state of Arizona doesn't allow gatherings over 50 people or whatever. So we don't know about the bash. We want to have it, but it's not looking really good at this point.
CES just got canceled, which always happens around the same time.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah, CES in Las Vegas. But we are working on something, and we hope to have some big announcements in the next couple of weeks about, ways to keep the community going throughout the winter. And I don't want to give away too much, but hold off if you can on making your big winter plans for a little while longer while we get some ducks in a row, and then hopefully we'll be able to keep this community spirit going throughout the winter in one way or another, and meet, whether it's in person or remotely or in small groups. We're working to try and keep the family together. So
we'll make those memories and all that happen one way or another.
Yeah, it's been kind of like we were talking about earlier. It feels like this year has been so long, and we've just kind of come to realize since the beginning of not knowing what the future held. Now that we know we're not where we thought we would be months ago, is like we just realize we have to take things one day at a time and even 1 month at a time and kind of go from there with these gatherings.
Yeah, we meet every week on the topic to discuss. So,
Yep.
But reality is hopefully we can make something happen, and we'll get through it. We'll have some good times ahead for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
guaranteed at some point.
I cannot wait to see all of you guys in person again. It's just
this has been a nice step in between, though. It was great to see you guys. Yeah.
I think that first event though will just be extra special. It's just gonna. JP, you don't really have to work that hard. Probably just be great no matter what.
Hey, and that's it. Just the ability to actually like hug each other will be enough.
Yeah.
100%.
So true.
Yeah, I kind of worry about our first event back together, just about how much partying and how late the nights will be, and making up for lost time.
Yeah, it could be interesting, but
yeah.
Well, we can't thank you all enough from the bottom of our hearts. Like, this has really been an uplifting conversation for me personally. I'm sure Mel feels the same way. A lot of downtime, and this means a lot to us, and we really appreciate you guys sharing and walking us down the memories.
Yeah.
And what's up next week on the virtual campfire, or next Wednesday on Virtual Wednesday?
Oh, I was like,
I
was trying to listen to JP, and then you were.
I'm like, this is your cue. He's cueing you. That's what
So next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, join our marketing team. They're going to be holding the webinar with Ashish from Winnebago and the advanced technology side. So it's going to be fun. We'll talk a little about the future of RVing. So it should be a really good topic.
Awesome.
Guys, we love you all. Cheers, and we'll see you soon. Hopefully, we'll see you virtually one way or another at some point.
Yeah.
But hopefully, we'll see you soon in person and we can give those hugs. But
virtual hugs for now.
Great. Thank you for having us on. It was great to go down this trip.
I'm literally, I got some tears in my eyes just
Yeah.
like feeling the magic and reconnecting again. So it's love the Xscapers, love Escapees, love all of you.
Love you too.
Bye, guys.
Bye.